So at Genomics England, we have a dual mission. On the one hand, we are transforming healthcare by bringing genomic medicine to the clinic. And also, we are accelerating and enabling research. For the former, there is a process of data generation, analysis, interpretation that allow the clinician to diagnose conditions and ideally also identify therapeutic options for the patient. Then the patients consent to share this data with the research community as well. And this is done through our secure, trusted research environment, which next allows researchers to further find information and make predictions about disease and potential treatment options for the patient. And this information, these discoveries go back to the patient and the clinic. So traditionally, we have been known as the creators of the 100K Genome Project, which have allowed the diagnosis of thousands of conditions, rare diseases, and cancers for thousands of patients through very strong collaborations with academia and industry. But also, right now, we have other research programs. Here you have the top programs with a research orientation. We have a new program for newborns, for sequencing newborns, a program dedicated to diversity, long-read sequencing in cancers, a pilot study in multiomics, and more recently, a whole program on multimodal data in oncology. Machine learning at Genomics England supports both healthcare and research missions. In the healthcare context, we support the bioinformatic pipelines. And in the research context, our top priority is fueling the multimodal research program. This is done in close cooperation with people with different backgrounds across the company, not only engineers and bioinformaticians, but also people working in ethics, in diversity, in policy, and other areas. Here you have some examples of applications that we have been developing in the area of machine learning. Some of them have been presented at the conference. For example, improving and accelerating quality control of genomes, evaluating large language models to support the prioritization of genomic variants. We also develop a pipeline to automatically de-identify pathology reports that are then released into our research environment for the community to use. And also, we are working hard at developing a machine learning environment to allow users to implement multimodal analysis and models. This is done in close cooperation with different partners, external partners, including industry. Here you have some examples of our external partners from the industry sector. So very briefly, I will give you a quick tour of some of these applications. First of all, I will start with a pipeline that we created for enhancing data privacy in our pathology reports. This is a very useful source of research for pathologists, but also for biologists in general, oncologists. The challenge here is that before we release this data into a research environment, we need to ensure that all private information or any information that could be re-identified and connected to the patient or to the people providing the care will be de-identified and redacted. So we investigated different approaches to do this, and we ended up with a combination of cutting-edge natural language processing plus pattern matching approaches. Here you have a high-level overview of the pipeline. The reports are input into the pipeline. The different parts of sensitive information are identified. They are redacted, and then these reports are released into our trusted research environment for the use of the wider research community. Another area of top priority for us is to investigate how artificial intelligence foundation models can help us achieve our mission. So without going into details, foundation models are deep learning models trained to learn general purpose tasks using large amounts of data. Then when this is done, these pre-trained models can be further adapted, calibrated, fine-tuned for different downstream application tasks. On the left here, you have some examples of such approach. You may have different types of omics data, then through different approaches based on self-supervision, you obtain this foundation model that then can be adapted to different downstream applications. The foundation models in general are trained using a so-called self-learning approach in which you have, for example, a genome, in the case of genomic sequences, you have the raw sequences as inputs to the model. Then you have this deep learning model with different layers of transformations and encoding, and each layer generates a so-called embedding or data representation. And in the end, this is done to learn a task whose label or information to predict is embedded in the data. In this case, as an illustration, the task is to predict the next letter in the genomic sequence used in the input. So once this is done, you have a pre-trained model that can be used for downstream applications. And actually, you can also use some of those embeddings generated by the internal layers as inputs to other applications. Here's an example of the application of such large language models. We are investigating their value to help us predict and prioritize the effect of genomic variations. Here, the challenge is not only to detect potential changes, but also rank and prioritize such variations and help the clinician to select the most relevant, potentially relevant variants. So in this case, we are investigating and benchmarking different pre-trained large language models. Here you have a couple of examples. And one area in which we see a potential application is how to use the scores generated by these models to further characterize the potential relevance of these variants. And in this particular example, the scores are estimated by calculating the probability of finding a mutated token, in this case, an amino acid, in comparison to the probability of finding the wild or unmutated amino acid. And this is work in development. Another top priority for us now is the multimodal project. In this case, we are investigating the use of multiple types of information coming from our patients, including genomics, but also eventually other types of omics data, different modalities of clinical imaging, clinical reports, and other clinical information. And here you have two potential applications that may accelerate research. One is the combination of these modalities to generate predictions about diagnosis, about prognosis, drug response, but also this could be useful for combining different modalities to predict biomarkers that are not directly measured. And this could facilitate, accelerate the prescreening of patients before further referrals or actual measurement of these biomarkers, such as therapy response biomarkers. Currently, a lot of our efforts is going through the building of this large data set. Arguably, is going to be the largest multimodal data set in the world. We are talking about thousands of images coming from different modalities, including histopathology, radiology. We are talking about pathology reports associated with these images. And of course, we're talking about genomic information mapped at the level of patients to facilitate the integration of this information in downstream applications. From a machine learning point of view, our top priority now, or top objective now, is to have something that can be used within our trusted research environment by external users, um, including industry and academic partners outside the United Kingdom. Right now, our current priority for our machine learning engineers and team is to establish and optimize the environments, the computational environments that you need for developing, testing, and actually bringing something to production. We're also developing a core set of tools to allow the access and analysis of this information in a transparent, adaptable way. And we're also conducting a user discovery with partners in industry and academia. This is just one of the outcomes that we will generate. We will have a set of tools that will allow a user to not only access data, but also to build cohorts of patients with particular characteristics using different query and retrieval criteria. Then this will take advantage of a feature store of pre-processed features. It will also allow the user to access pre-trained models that can be reused and combined. And all this contained within a cloud secure environment. To conclude, I'd like to share some of the challenges and lessons that we have faced in the development of this application, and also they are relevant for other areas of machine learning. So typically, we see the machine learning lifecycle as a sequence of steps, starting with a problem formulation, pre-processing, etc., all the way to model deployment. And typically, all you need is computing infrastructure to allow you to train and access these models, the techniques to build these models, the data that is used as inputs for training purposes and evaluation purposes, and of course, the domain knowledge, the expertise that you need for evaluating the systems and acquiring the requirements for building the systems. In practice, there are a number of challenges that go beyond traditional tech or research challenges. For example, legal, governance, ethics, privacy issues. And for us at Genomics England, this is super important to maintain and enhance the trust that patients have in Genomics England. This is also a challenge of data-centric proportions, not only in the sense of volumes of data, but also the quality of this data, the quality and volume of the metadata associated with this data. We are also talking about ways to ensure that these developments are done in secure, clearly defined environments with the required resources. For example, separating what is development from production, from testing. That requires a lot of effort and tech challenges, but also policy challenges. To do all this together, then there is a need to implement all these steps in an automated, flexible, and transparent way, reproducible, and this is referred to MLOps. Here we're talking about not only the implementation of the whole life cycle, but also to ensure that evaluation, testing, feedback is provided on a continuous basis at a scale. And this is done from exploration, early stage, all the way to deployment to production. Lastly, we're talking about cultural challenges. This is not only because we work in a highly cross-disciplinary environment, but also because on a daily basis, we may encounter challenges associated with the way people work, the way they used to work before joining the company, but also the different ways in which our organization brings people together according to projects, according to priorities. And also, there is a challenge of ensuring the alignment between all these disciplines. For example, measures of success, the understanding of failure, and so on. So these are soft cultural challenges. I thank you for listening. Special thanks to our patients. Everything we do at Genomics England is for the patient, with the patient. And I thank a number of key people and teams at Genomics England. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions? This one at the back.
So particularly for the foundation models, how do you deal with potential algorithmic bias in those models?
Bias.
Bias,
yeah. Yes.
By bias, I mean like the data could be imbalanced, that might be less data from underrepresented populations, so the predictions might be biased for those minority.
Yes. So the basic approach is to apply well-established techniques for ensuring that that imbalance, potential imbalances, biases are detected early, they are mitigated early as early as possible. But in the end, the approach will depend on the application. If in some cases you will have a big imbalance, it might be too risky to go in that direction. In some cases, by combining a strategy of additional data acquisition, curation, plus mitigation techniques, the risk is manageable. So there is no single solution for all of that. And also, by the way, we do this in close cooperation with people who are also interested in the biases embedded in the process of acquiring data and the potential impacts downstream. Thanks.
So thank you very much. You were mentioning the genomic variation was a pretty recent study. So I was interested in how recent it is, and if you take into consideration just the white British cohort or other cohorts, and then more in details, like if you're implementing just one pipeline or model, or how you're gonna test it, or if you're implemented with other methodologies, AI methodologies, just to double check that the results are robust.
Okay, so there are different levels in that question. I will start with the data. So Genomics England main purpose was to bring genomic medicine to the National Health Service in the UK. So the main emphasis and the data comes from people in the UK. At the same time, in the not too distant future, the idea is to bring that together with other efforts, global efforts, and hopefully with the European Union as well, to ensure that this impact goes beyond the UK, but also to address the challenges that only global initiative can approach. Regarding the second question, if I understood correctly, it's about the different pipelines and the evaluation. So we have, for the healthcare side, an accreditation process that basically audits and ensures on a continual basis the minimum standards of quality that a system has to meet in a clinical grade environment. For research, we have another story. These are more research-oriented projects, and you have different approaches. Does it answer your question? Yes. Okay. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And also within the UK, we hope to improve this interconnectivity. Yeah. One last question, yeah. Hi, Peter.
Francisco, thanks a lot. The data collected, it was really amazing. So could you please give us somehow highlights what would be the most efficient way how people, for example, from research, from Europe, be in collaboration?
Yeah.
Is it like a service activity, or it's really scientific, maybe collaboration at some stage?
So the quick answer is that for academics, we have a program that involves a submission process, an application, and it's about ensuring the relevance of the application, the privacy, and so on. So this is for academics. There is a program well established with some procedures. And this is the standard approach that gives people access to selected data sets for public consumption. So that's the basic level. We have other collaborations, more strategic, they require more effort from us, more investment on different parts, but these are done on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Francisco.